Welcome to our first morning connections of the year. My name is Kevin Gilmore. I'm the new high school principal, and I'm looking forward to these monthly events that we have. Again, one of the things I'm really impressed with since I came here is the sense of community here at ISS, and I think that's really important. And this is just one example of that. We really believe in that connection and your access to the school and our access to you. So we are hoping that we will have a great slate of speakers through the year, and there'll be learning experiences for all of us. That is what we're all about, learning. Right, just to let you know, downstairs we're having a really terrific day with Horizons. Just had a stampede of kids go off to their events for the day, and they had a really, really good day yesterday. So please ask them how their day went too, and how their Horizons projects worked out. Also, I'll probably see some of you tonight as well. You're going to be really sick of me after today for the open house. So a reminder of that at 6:30 tonight. So last night I asked my wife some skill testing questions that I had read about from our guest speaker, and she was wondering why I was being so chatty, like it was getting weird, right? So anyway, she's not used to that. What's going on here? You know, you're actually asking interesting questions. Like, this isn't you. What's happening? So, and the reason was, of course, is I'd done a little bit of research. Our speaker is Berta Lende Røed, and I called her rude earlier with my Canadian accent, but fortunately she didn't take it personally. Anyway, as you know, our speaker is an inventor of Fuelbox and is the CEO, I think, of Fuel It. She has a relationship box of questions that are great, and she's also got a family edition, which I think would be very appropriate here, and probably some other editions too, which I'm not aware of. So, as you probably also read, she was a finalist for Female Entrepreneur of the Year in 2016, and this is a really, really fascinating topic, and I think useful for all of us. So I will turn it over to our guest speaker, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice introduction. And I know you should never start a presentation by excusing yourself, but I really have to. I have to excuse my voice. It's like, yeah, it's not good. And I've been a bit nervous today for speaking in front of you guys in English. So I have practiced, but I really need my notes because I'm used to giving talks all the time, but it's Norwegian. No? So hopefully I won't speak too fast because I'm a fast speaker, but I'm not very good at speaking fast in English, so this can be interesting. So let me know if I'm going too fast forward for you guys, okay? So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for a lovely introduction. And I love that, Mrs. Rude. I will use that anytime now.
My wife was wondering about some of the rude questions I asked her last night. So
oh, there's a lot of rude questions, so we'll get back to that. Yeah, but I have always loved to talk. I mean, always. When I was younger, my daddy used to pay me not to talk. So I mean, as long as I could keep quiet, the more money I got paid. And when I started in school like this, at that time we got a notebook with us home every 6 months or so, and my notebooks always said, Berta works diligent and hard, but talks too much. And when I got to high school, I got my first teacher's note to bring back home to my parents, which said, and I quote, for verbally uncontrolled outbursts. And even when I started my teaching degree, I'm a teacher as well. When I started on my teaching degree in the Norwegian School of Sports and Science, this was a big problem for me. We had this horrible sport, I don't know if you know it, it's called swimming. Yeah? It's impossible to keep up a decent conversation while you're swimming. So we had this horrible teacher as well, with his stick, because he was very into our feats, it had to be correct, so he was going along the poolside, shouting, Lende, which is me, Lende Røed, Lende, Lende, more swimming, less talking. And with that being the first chapters of my life, I'm quite happy today to say that I actually make a living out of talking. You know? But even more important, I make a living out of getting other people to talk more and better together. That's my main thing. In all modesty, I have to tell you that I am married to the most wonderful man sometimes. Well, I'm married all the time, but sometimes he is wonderful. He is wonderful. And our big thing in the beginning, when we first met, was our great conversations. I mean, we could talk for hours about everything. And I just thought he was so wise. And that's a long time ago now, of course, but then he was just so wise. He asked questions, you did this thing, and he listened, can you imagine? And then he asked more questions. And then we have all these children. I had 2, and then we have 2 more. And suddenly I find that we are lying like this on the couch in the evening, watching television, holding our phones, and maybe sharing more on Facebook than with each other. Can you relate? And I really missed our conversations. And I had a lot that I wanted to talk to him about. A lot that I wanted to ask him, and a lot that I wanted him to ask me. But when we had time, I could not remember it, or I could not find that great question that could start the conversation in a good, non-blaming way. So what I did was that I started to write down questions that came to mind at all hours, and I put them in an envelope. And this exact envelope was quite full when I showed it to my husband one night with a bottle of wine and told him, look what I've done. Could we just pick randomly and see what happens? And we sat on the couch. This is like 3.5 years ago. We sat on the couch with our feet like this, and we had our red wine, and we had that envelope, and we picked a card. We started picking cards. And that night, for us, that was magical. We talked for hours. We didn't get to pick that many cards because every question generated so much conversations. We laughed, I cried, and we talked. We looked each other in the eyes and talked. And I remember saying to my husband, I think that there's a lot of couples out there who would enjoy this, who would have fun with it, who would experience a meaningful time with their loved ones with this. So this was a Saturday, and already on Monday, I don't only talk fast, I do think fast as well. On Monday, 2 days later, I talked to Innovation of Norway, if you know them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they agreed that great conversations should come in a box. And they financially supported me with a small amount of money, but even so, to try to develop my concept that is now known as Fuelbox, the box of great conversations in English, for couples. So this is a couples box. Have any one of you heard about Fuelbox before? Oh, there's one guy. Oh,
the one guy.
Oh my God, this is such a big thing for me. Thank you. Oh my God, this is so fun. Well, then I just have to use half a minute just to show you what this is, so you know where I'm coming from. Okay? Because I'm not a therapist or a psychiatrist or whatever, or even a coach. I'm just a normal woman that missed the great conversations with my husband, and I was terrified of one more time losing a man, the father of my children. Okay, so this is a box, and all the boxes that we now have are just like this, but of course with different contents. It's a box with approximately 170 questions, open questions, to kickstart reflections and great conversations in different relations. So this is the couples box with categories like opinion, attitudes and values, family, children and finance, sex, love and romance, of course, past, present and future, all to kickstart great conversations with your partner. Okay. So you can have a look at this afterwards if you would like to. So where was I? Yes. Oh, that was far away. Okay. So what we would like to, when we are describing Fuelbox, we describe it as a creative communication and relation catalyst that it's very hard in English. It's a creative communication and relation catalyst that will bring people together face to face to reconnect or just connect for improved relations or learning or sharing and growth. Okay, so that's the main definitions. And we have for different relations. So what started with me missing the great conversations with my husband has now resulted in more than 13 different fuel boxes. We have 3 for the corporate segment, a box for leadership, team and innovation. And we have for couples in the personal segment, if you can call it that, couples box, family box, friends box, and we have an own box for youth. And now the latest box we are developing, or it will come tomorrow to Norway, it's finished. It's called New Citizens. So it's not for you guys, I would say, but it's for like refugees and other people that is coming and living in Norway and that need to create a life, need to create new relationships, need to talk about stuff, need to learn Norwegian and so on. So that's our latest box, which I'm so proud of. And it will be in Norway tomorrow. And we also, what started with this box is now in several countries in all parts of the world. So we are in Australia. Is someone from Australia here? Yeah. That's good. From Australia, of course, there's someone from Australia. And we are also in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. Someone from these countries? Yeah? Yeah, okay, good. And we're, of course, in Denmark, and Singapore, and Dubai, and even in Oman. And we are launching in Sweden now. So it's quite funny to think, I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I'm a mother of 4, you know. I just missed the conversation, and now I see how important that is. And I love to work with it every day. But why am I so passionate now about this? The technology that we are surrounded with has made the concept of distance very different. The world has become smaller and so much more accessible in so many wonderful ways. But the question remains, has it brought us closer together? Maybe closer to everyone else except those closest to us. We relax in front of different screens. We are social through different medias, and stimulations are lined up. And these stimulations, they were earlier connected to people. But now I cause great panic in my own family when I tell them that we are going to spend a weekend without Wi-Fi in a cabin. That's no way. What are we going to do? Who are we going to talk to? You know? And these phones that we, and myself included, these phones that we are more or less dependent on, they don't just change what we do and how we do it. They change who we are. Because we are getting used to being together without being together. And we are getting used to being another person than who we really are by editing and retouching ourselves into what we would like to be, especially on social media. Think about this. We actually hold our phones more than we hold each other. And we ask more questions on Google than we ask each other. We sacrifice in many ways great conversations for mere contact. Our wealth has made us independent, and we manage great at home with our own entertainment departments. These are my 2 youngest, I'm not proud to say. Relaxing, having fun together. Yeah. You recognize this? So the age of individualism is here. And it seems like it's taken its toll on our relations. But not only our relations are suffering. Even our health is affected. We can see that from different studies which shows our psychological and physical health being affected in all ages and in all societies. This article in a Norwegian newspaper states that digital hugs, they just don't do it for us. The article says not having face-to-face contact with people that matters to you. And hold on, listen to me now. Not having contact with people that matters to you is just as health damaging as smoking a pack of cigarettes a day combined with overweight. Scientifically, studies show this. According to this article, we knew that already in the 1980s. But what we now know is the mechanism behind these findings. And the hormone oxytocin is involved. And oxytocin is poured out when we are having, with all kinds of care. When you give someone a good hug, breastfeeding, very good, and plain old-fashioned like making out. I mean, we should all make out more. Because then oxytocin is being poured out. This American psychologist, Susan Pinker, has written a scientifically based book about oxytocin. And it tells us that oxytocin might explain why women live 5 to 7 years longer than men in most countries. Because we women, we nourish our relationships more and we are more generous with physical closeness. That might explain why we live longer. So we should really keep on doing that. And the men are coming after us. I mean, we see that. They are coming, like when we meet a guy now, it's like, before, high five. You know, we should do that. It's good for our health. So what more can we make of this? I think it gives us a clear idea of the importance of bringing face-to-face time into our lives. And that virtual social contact can never replace real social contact. Today, it is possible to have thousands of friends on Facebook, but no friendships. And we are a people on a constant chase for happiness. But what is happiness? When a large group of youth, or millennials as they call them, were asked, what is your main life goal? 80% of these young people answered, to get rich. And what do you think the next thing was? What is the next most important thing in your life? To get famous. And furthermore, we are constantly told of the importance of leaning into work, work more, work harder, reach your potential, both at work and at home in our spandex. And is this really what we need to strive for, to be happy? Pictures of entire lives and of the choices that people make and how these choices work out for them are almost impossible to get. What we know about human life, we know from asking people to remember their past. And then we know that their mind can be right down creative, and we forget a vast amount of what happens to us. So what if we could watch entire lives as they unfold to see what makes people happy and healthy? So the Harvard study of adult development did just that. And this is a crazy, crazy cool study. And an exceptional study, because this study lasted for 75 years. So for 75 years, different professors leading the study tracked the lives of 724 men. Okay, since it started 75 years ago, okay? So half of the men started their studies at Harvard. The other half of these 724 men were from the poorest areas of Boston. And they were studied through their lives with questionnaires, interviews, observations, brain scans, blood samples. They even interviewed their wives and the children as they came along. and they have full access to their medical journals, and they met them every second year at least, for 75 years. And around 60 of these men still live, and they're around 90 years old. And some of them climbed the social ladder all the way from the bottom to the top, and some of them fell from the top to the bottom. Someone became lawyer, someone became teacher, one even became president of America. So what are the lessons learned from studying these lives about what gives us health and happiness? Well, it was not about fame, and it was not about wealth, or working harder and harder. What gives us happiness and good health is relationships. And it's not about if you're married or not, or how many friends you have. It's about the quality of the relationship. The happiest and healthiest people in this study, they spend time and energy on their friends, the spouse, if they had one, their family, and their neighborhood. And one fun fact was that having a loving, close relationship at the age of 50 was a better predictor for your health as 80-year-old than your cholesterol level at 50. So there's no doubt here. But somehow, I think we have always known this. We always know that it's important to have good people around us, you know? So why is it so easy for us to just don't think about it, or forget about it, or don't take it seriously? I think that is because we are humans. We like a quick fix. We like things to feel good right away. And relationships, they can be messy. It can be hard work to attend to your partner and your family and your friends sometimes. To prioritize them, to follow up. And what does these results mean to you? What does it mean to spend more time on relationships? Is it a reminder of doing more of something and less of something else? Replace screen time with people time? Date nights? New family concepts? I think it's all about all of us in our busy day, everyday life, taking responsibility of connecting, or maybe even reconnecting with the people that matter to us. Because we know that this just not happen by itself. I think we need to engage in the people that we are lucky to have in our lives to keep them there. The grass is greenest where you water it. It's the saying. And our kids, they really need to learn the value of this, because they grow up with these things in their hands. They're practically coming out with them in their hands. And they don't do as we say, they do as we do. And that is something I've learned with my kids. Sometimes they do as I say, but most of the time they do as I do. That's how we learn them. They have these in their hands. That's why we call them screenagers today. You know that? We call them screenagers. So how can we have those valuable face-to-face conversations in our different relations with our screenagers, with our partners, with our family and friends, and maybe even with our colleagues at work? I think we have to start using the question mark more often than we are using the exclamation mark. That's easy to remember. We have to start using the question mark more often. We have to ask more questions. We have to start asking more questions, because sometimes questions are more important than answers. Great questions sparks great conversations. And great conversations enables us to connect with others. And high quality connections with others are the reason for our existence. According to the famous Professor Brené Brown, anyone of you know her? Yeah? I love her. I love her books. You really should look up Brené Brown. Wonderful book. She's a professor from the States. She says that connections is what brings purpose to our lives. It's why we exist. She studies this scientifically. So what questions should we ask then? And how can we set off time and create a setting for these great conversations? I want to do it there. Excuse me, I just took that out. So Fuelbox came into this world because I felt that this conversation was not always so easy to get into with my own husband. Not only did I experience that finding the most exciting topics was difficult, but it was when we had time. But that was also the thing, to set off time and create a setting for these conversations. So I felt the need to create a meeting point, a reason to gather with my husband, to turn off the television and the phones. And I also felt the need to make the difficult but important conversations easier to get into. And not at least, I had to make room for conversations that reminds us, why do I like you? I mean, there's something there once. Why do I like you? And how can we keep this going? And why should we do it? Because I'm sure many of you are like me, I'm not the kind of person that you can say, I love you to on your wedding day and I'll let you know if that changes. No, I need engagement and interest from my husband. At least every week. I would like it every day, some way. I need him to be interested in me. I tried with my husband once. I asked him over dinner why the kids were there. I said to him, what is the best thing about coming home from a longer trip? And he was like, what? Why do you ask me that? What do you mean? Do I travel too much? Which he does, of course. So that didn't spark any great conversation that day. But when we picked that same question from that box on our trip to Firenze, we have to get away from the 4 kids sometimes. We picked that from the box. And then we ended up sitting talking about what we miss when we're gone, what we love coming home to, and how we can preserve that somehow. Then we had a great conversation because that box does not have any hidden agenda. And that's the smartest thing about that box, which I didn't think of at that time, but it's quite smart. Just a month after I launched Fuelbox Couples in 2013, November 2013, in Norway, my mom called me while I was in Oslo, and she said, Berta, there's a man on the news with your box. And I went, what? There's a man on the news with your box. And we turned up the television and I took this picture like this with my phone. And there was, in my eyes, a great, great guy. Frode Tuen, he's a famous couples therapist in Norway. He writes in the newspaper and he's on TV all the time. And he was, 1 month, I had not learned how to process orders in my net boutique, in the net web shop. So I was he was there on the news picking out cards from my box. And I was so nervous, because what would he say? And luckily, he loved the box, thank you. But what I loved even more was what he said. Because what he said was that the most important thing we can do to take care of or nourish the love for each other in a relationship is to nourish the curiosity we have for each other. Did I get that out all right in English? Yeah? You got it? Okay, good. So nourish the curiosity for each other is the most important thing we can do to take care of the love in a relationship. And I believe him. But I believe that that is not just important in our couple's relationship. I think that we can all relate to the longing of really talking to our kids, or become better acquainted with our in-laws, or even share everything that's going on in our lives with our own siblings and parents if we have them. And that's what Fuelbox Family is all about. It's about creating an entertaining and meaningful get-together where we learn new stuff about each other, where we share things with each other, memories, ideas, feelings, and so on. Where everyone is equally important. The kids are not more important than the parents. I really believe that kids need to learn more about us as well. They need to learn that we are actually interested in other stuff than them. I mean that. And I can tell on my kids when I see we use this. I have two guys. They are 15 and 12. I have to somehow force them to use Fuelbox. I have to tell you that. They have Fuelbox on their lunch. They are tired of Fuelbox. So, but we get them together with ice cream or something like that, and we have them for an hour, or then they go back to the PlayStation or whatever. But I can tell when I see their eyes when my husband is telling them about what he did in school or something going on at work or with his friends. You have friends? You know, work in this bed and breakfast thing. I mean, so that's also important. And that's what the Fuelbox Family is all about, getting to know each other and have fun, engaging conversations. And that box we have really given several customers fuel moments, as I like to call them, and they give me feedback on that. When I actually got to launch even the family box on the TV, God morgen Norge, in the morning show. Excuse me. And the family who was on TV, they had tried the box for a period, and the mother in the family of 5 said that they picked the card. What is your favorite? No, what is your best? What is your best childhood memory? And the children were like, "Can I tell first? Can I say first?" And to all those boys, they both wanted to talk about the same thing. And you would imagine that would be like a soccer game that they won or something like that. But what they ended up talking about was their grandfather, who had passed away 1.5 years earlier in a very, very dramatic way. And they had not talked about it. Because the mother was grieving, it was her father, she was grieving badly, so the kids didn't want to disturb her with that. And the mother didn't want to put her grief on her children, so she didn't talk about it either. And with that question, they ended up talking for 1.5 hours about their grandfather, about their favorite memories of him, the last Christmas with him, and so on. So I mean, an open question like that can get you to talk about what you really need to talk about in a family. And then we have another young guy called Berta. He's 6 years old. His mother wrote to me and told me that he likes to pick one card at night with her when he's going to bed. And it's mostly with her because his father travels a lot. And he picked the card, who would you like to be for one day in our family? Who in our family would you like to be for one day? And not to her surprise, he said, Daddy, of course, 6 years old. And then she asked him, but Berta, what would you do if you were Daddy for a whole day? And he said, then I would spend time with Berta. So that's a fuel moment. And I just have to tell you another one that happened last week. I had a woman coming to my door and she wanted to buy the Friends box. And she told me, well, we're using the family box a lot. Oh, that's so nice to hear, I said. And she said, yeah, one night we picked the question, what do you like about me the most? And my 15-year-old stepson had a quite surprising answer to that, because when it came to what he liked the most about me, I thought he would say, my pizza, because he loves that. But what he said was, I like the most how that you make my dad so happy. Yeah, that's so nice. So we can get these real fuel moments of all the boxes, but of course from the family box, because the kids, they know so much and they have so much inside them, but it's kind of hard sometimes to get it out there. And that is what I hope people experience with that box. Oh, it's so great when they like help out, you know, with the friends. Yes. So we all need good friends that we can count on, that we can share everything that goes on in our lives with our, and we can share great things that we're happy about, but also our concerns and so on. And I think that openness and honesty brings us closer together, and revealing our weaknesses and being understood by another human being, that's the most important thing that we have. And I don't think that has to happen with a therapist or on a mindfulness course. I think that that can happen at home, with our families and friends and partners, and even in the workplace with our colleagues. We just need to open the door and let people in or go out it ourselves. And there's always a lot of focus on the youth, of course. In the media and the social media. Youth who are struggling emotionally, youth who are only communicating through their technical devices and social media, and of course youth and bullying. And when it comes to bullying, I think that anti-bullying work should be all about relationships. It should be about creating arenas or spaces where kids can have experiences together, but also where they can talk. I think there's nothing as preventing against bullying as building relations, and nothing builds relationships more than sharing with each other. Sharing thoughts, opinions, attitudes, but feelings, stories, memories, knowledge with each other. And that's what Fuelbox Youth is all about. And there are a lot of schools now using Fuelbox. I'm sorry, we don't have it in English yet, but it's coming. But there's a lot of schools using Fuelbox in many different pedagogic ways, because one thing you think is putting a box on the table and let's talk. But you can use this in so many ways, because we know the power of an open question. It sparks reflections. So you can use it in homework, and you can use it 2 and 2 in groups, and from the teacher in the front or whatever. Because kids really need to learn to start thinking for themselves. Everything is going so fast for them, they don't have time to think. And they talk to each other through screens, they don't learn how to interpret body language. You know? I think that's really important, and I hope our concept will help with that in schools as well. Because they really learn, they need to work on their emotional intelligence. That's what I'm saying. And even the sharpest minds, when it comes to economy in the world, knows the importance of bringing you and your emotional intelligence into the mix. And this quote is from the World Economic Forum in Davos. That was in 2011, so it's not that new, but they said that we live in a world that's moving from focus on IQ to an increased focus on EQ. So we have been through a renaissance where it has been focus on our intellect. But now we're moving towards shifts, towards connecting the rest of the body, and particularly the heart. And I think that's because all of us have a fundamental need to be seen, to be heard, to be valued for whom we truly are. And we need acknowledgement from people around us, and we need to be involved and able to contribute. And I think this is important in schools, in our homes, and at the workplace. And let's talk just a little bit about what neuroscience says about this. That always makes me look smart, you know, when let's talk about the brain. Okay. So, but there's a lot that we can learn from neuroscience in what gives clues to what makes relationships with colleagues as well as our partners and families thrive. The part of the brain that explains deep connections is called temporopartial junction. And that part of our brain is activated when we share with others. And sharing, like I've said now, trumps everything when it comes to creating deep connections. And when we are active in sharing, this part of the brain lights up like a Christmas tree. And I'm talking about, again, sharing our dreams, our feelings, our aspirations, our stories, our memories, our opinions, but also our knowledge and our experience and competence with each other. And it also releases a high level of oxytocin, the sharing part. And we know that that's a fabulous thing, because that hormone enables us to connect deeply with others as well. So based on this, neuroscientists urge us to experiment with sharing at home and in the workplace to create strong connections with others. I'm soon at the end there, and Fuelbox can kickstart this in the workplace as well. Fuelbox leadership, Fuelbox team, and Fuelbox innovations is all about helping organizations to connect on a face-to-face level for improved relations, sharing, learning, and growth. I will leave you with a tip in the end. It's a small tip. It's only 3 words. And it's not what you think. But I will leave you with a tip of 3 words that, according to science and everything that I show you, will enable you to connect deeply with others and have lifelong happiness, according to science. And those 3 words, they are not what you think. It's not I love you, but I think we should say that more as well. But the 3 words that we should all say more often are tell me more. Tell me more. These 3 words shows the other person that you are listening, that your story means something to me. You are important to me. And that creates a feeling of value in that person speaking, which reflects back on the listener, and a connection is being established or reinforced. It's quite logical. We should all use these words more. Tell me more. Professor Mark Holder held an excellent TED Talk about tell me more. And he has a lot of studies on this. So you can look that up. Okay. Thank you so much for your attention, and please visit me in the back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Berta Lende Røed, and I'm the communication officer. I'll send you an email about this presentation, so it's very difficult to fill in for Mrs. Madre, who's on maternity leave now. And I was actually a bit stressed because my first morning connection, and I thought, oh, nobody's going to show up, and there's so much to do, and I think of the coffee, for example, biscuits, contact the presenter. So I'm very happy that you all showed up, and I especially want to say thank you to Berta for giving such a passionate presentation about her great invention. So I hope you can all take something home from this presentation. And thank you very much. I have a present for you.
Oh, wow.
It's a book about Stavanger, written by one of the dads of Hans Christian Ness, one of the teachers in the high school.
Oh, wow.
So
Thank you
very much for coming over.
Yeah. Thank you.
You can still take a look at the fuel boxes if you want. Drink your coffee, you don't have to go right away. You can still stay here for a while to talk a bit. And next week probably I will send out a new email for our next morning connections, that will be in October. Okay, so feel free to join that one too. So see you all next month. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.